Hi, Richard here, owner of Unbounded Analytics Inc. This is the second video in our Learning Indicators series, where we show you how to install and use each of our proprietary indicators, followed by examples of trading context and trading setups that you may wish to consider for potential inclusion in your trading plan. As always, we need to start with the disclaimer. Pause the recording if you need longer to read it. TrackerRTH comes with the user's manual and one installation file for each of NinjaTrader versions 7 and 8. The install or uninstall process is the same as for any third-party software. When you install TrackerRTH, you actually install a second indicator called Rth with it. You load Rth on a daily chart. It's up to you whether you want that daily chart to use an RTH or ETH session template. In the user interface for Rth, you can pick the period and colors for 3 moving averages, 1 EMA and 2 SMAs. By default, a 20 EMA, 50 SMA, and 200 SMA are used. You also select the period for the average daily range calculation. 10 days is used by default. At the start of every new RTH or ETH session, NinjaTrader closes the bar for the prior session. Rth then updates its information and writes it to a text file that TrackerRTH can then use. After you first load and set up Rth, you should never need to touch it again. Note that you can load Rth just once per instrument, otherwise you will get an error trying to write to the same file at the same time with each instance of the indicator. Just one cook per kitchen here. TrackerRTH is our 20-in-1 indicator. As the name implies, the indicator is tracking key price references and was intended to give day traders the ability to track RTH information on ETH charts, something that most indicators can't do. So with one indicator and in one place, you can organize and adjust what would otherwise be a whole bunch of freebie or paid separate indicators. Compared to all these other indicators, TrackerRTH does the math only once, organizes the information neatly, and most information can be hidden or unhidden with a simple chart scroll to the left or right. TrackerRTH is not specific to any one trading method. It lets you pick what you want to see, experiment to see what works, and observe for confluences. You control what you see, so just turn off anything that you don't use. TrackerRTH is intended to run on your trading time frame chart, whether it be second, minute, tick, volume, range, or Renko bars. The session template, however, has to be ETH. TrackerVP is another one of our indicators. Its focus is volume studies, like volume profile and VWAP. I mention it now because TrackerRTH and TrackerVP fit seamlessly together, as can be seen here. Or just use each as standalone indicators if you choose. Now let's unpack each of the TrackerRTH features. First, in the upper left-hand corner you see a session summary. At the start of the overnight session, the tracker starts tracking information to use for the next RTH session. This includes the size and direction of any gap on close or gap on range, the status of the overnight inventory, and the session volume and range. At the start of the RTH session, the range tracker resets to 0, but the volume tracker does not. I created this session summary because each piece of information gives me real-time insight into the trading day as it progresses. Below the session summary is the type, date, and time of the last RTH session identified. TrackerRTH can be optionally set to adjust for holidays, whether it be one early close or 2 consecutive early closes. The holiday adjustment allows traders to ignore shortened sessions, instead referencing the session high, low, and value area for the last full session. For settings, it is probably better to step through them starting from a clean chart. First up are the previous RTH session high, low, close, and the current open. Next is the Globex high and low, which some call the after hours or overnight high and low, depending on the time zone where you live. Showing leader lines is optional for the session highs and lows. Next is a market profile for the previous RTH session. Note the profile is simplified to just showing the value area and TPOC. Traders familiar with market profile concepts will train their eye to see high and low volume nodes in their candlesticks, so this redundant information is not included. Continuous halfback plots for each of the Globex and RTH sessions are available, given the popularity of halfback. Alternatively, you can opt to just show the current halfback location. Gap traders like to see half gap and half gap on range, so these are also included. From here, we now add various estimates of how far price may move in a session. 5 are available. First, floor trader pivot points can be shown. For S3 and R3, and further out, I caution that different formulas are available. If you are a Pivot Boss fan, TC and BC are included. Second, the 60-minute initial balance is shown, as are the typical measured move expansions of 1.5 and 2 times IB. Note how the size of the IB range, like the size of the value area, is shown in points. Some traders attribute meaning to these. Third, some Fib traders like to anticipate mean reversion by seeing the 127 and 161.8 extensions for the prior RTH and Globex sessions. Fourth, range estimate high and range estimate low allow you to anticipate the current session's range using a specified point range or a percentage of the prior session's range. Fifth and last, we can anticipate the current session's range using the ADR information obtained from WriterD and add 1 and 2 standard deviations of the ADR to anticipate how far an extended move may go. Speaking of WriterD, TrackerRTH adds the 3 moving averages you specified on your daily chart using the colors you specified there. One last feature to mention is the tracking of intraday fibs, which will flip the direction of the fib pull as appropriate. Depending on the characteristics of what you trade, you may find this helpful on inside days and/or on trend days. Moving on, let's talk about how to use TrackerRTH. First, this is a technical indicator, not a trading style or method. I'm not trying to tell you how to trade. However, if you can take away a nugget or two of insight, please backtest and confirm it works for you before ever going live with it. There are 4 main types of uses: classic setups, hitting daily stats, spotting confluences, and targets. A classic entry setup might be a failed breakout of a daily or Globex high or low, a pullback to halfback, or even a rejection off the value area. For stats, if you day trade instruments like ES, then you likely know it as various statistical behaviors, some as high as 97% plus minus. When trading, you might see fulfilling a daily stat as a market objective, so perhaps you will hold a trade until that statistic is fulfilled. Afterwards, you might then be alert for price to reverse to auction the other way. For spotting confluences, perhaps your entries require confluence of 2 or more references, like a pullback to halfback at VPOC. You can also combine confluences with price action observations. So perhaps a pullback to halfback is combined with the observation that it is also a failed breakout of a swing high. Ultimately, what you use is entirely up to you. Our goal is to make it easier for you to see your setups. At least with TrackerRTH, it is easy to experiment to find what works for you. For targets, they can be fulfilling one of the daily statistics or using one or more of the many measured move metrics discussed earlier. For the first example, let's assume you are a price action trader that trades second entries as your trigger. Or perhaps you are a trendline trader that enters on a break of a trend line. So why not boost your analysis by adding some context for Confluence so that your trigger now occurs at a key reference, such as a long after a failed breakout below a previous daily low? For the second example, if you look to enter on a pullback to halfback or VWAP, then perhaps consider a pullback to the confluence of halfback and VWAP. Support resistance traders might look more favorably on their setup when it also occurs at the halfback VWAP just mentioned. I favor a pullback to volume, so know there are many ways to see this concept in the charts. Regardless, TrackerRTH can enhance your style without attempting to change it. For a third example, regardless of how you trade, TrackerRTH is doing the homework for you. No more, I missed the trade because I forgot to draw this or that, or I drew it in the wrong spot, or the dog ate my homework when all your manually drawn lines suddenly disappear. TrackerRTH has got you covered. Put the computer to work so you are free to think and trade. For the fourth example, if you have ever considered trading using profile, then you surely have wondered which is better, market or volume profile. With TrackerRTH and TrackerVP running together, you see both. Sometimes they agree strongly, sometimes they don't. Why not skip the debate and just trade what the chart is actually showing you? The fifth example is challenging to demonstrate. The market is constantly changing. It cannot behave the same way every day, so it does some things for a bit, then switches to something else. Trend one day, range the next, and so on. Some parameters tend to fall in and out of focus. For example, the daily moving averages for ES can be largely irrelevant for days, then suddenly price reacts strongly off the common ones. Traders can be lulled into ignoring them only to find they miss opportunities when they become relevant once again. Don't fret. TrackerRTH keeps tracking these price references day after day. When you need them, they will be there. I invite you to give TrackerRTH a try. We offer a free trial for all our indicators. Until next time, green trades everyone.